Yeah.
I can do anything, yeah. I can do anything, yeah. I can do anything.
What's going on, world? I am Chris McPherson, and I'm pleased to be with you another week. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you decided to tune in once again, and I appreciate that. For a moment, I want to borrow your attention and talk to you about the concept of fear. You know, fear is something that I hope all listeners have learned to overcome, and it is something that unfortunately still plagues many of us on a daily basis. When we think about fear is simply a unsettling, an anxiety, and emotion that we get out of a situation that we don't know about. So to say it differently, we are overthinking something that is to come, something that will happen in a future state. Some of you may be familiar with the quote that states there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And this is actually true because really there is nothing to fear. Fear is our own way of putting the worst case scenario in front of the best case outcome. And whenever we do that, we allow ourselves to be afraid. For me, I travel the country, have traveled internationally. I've flown hundreds of flights. So I don't have a fear of flying. I feel perfectly comfortable in an airplane, elevating thousands of feet above the Earth's surface. Well, all individuals don't have that experience of flying, and some have never flown. So some who have never flown have a fear of flying. They don't know what it's going to feel like to be off the ground. They haven't been in a pressurized cabin that's only so big, in which you have to cohabitate with others for a short period of time before you get to your destination. Well, if we think about the concept then of flying, a person who has never flown doesn't know what to expect, whereas me, a seasoned traveler, does. So where I can rest and get some relaxation on the flight, they may be clenching onto their seat, or they may be twiddling their fingers, or they may be biting their lips because they have fear of what could happen. There is a certain thing that happens when we get afraid, and there's a physical response to that. So people, if you've ever heard the phrase of scared to death, or, scared in any capacity, when fear leads to us being afraid and then we are scared, we can actually have physical effects that allow us to do nothing. We see this in nature oftentimes with animals who, when they get afraid, they literally stiffen up and fall over. You can see this in some lambs, you can see this in goats, you can see this in armadillos, possums, etc. And the reason they do this is because the fear literally takes over their body, and it's a fight-flight response. Their response is to simply lay there and pretend to not be alive until the moment passes. Well, unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity as humans, and if we do, we shouldn't take that moment to lay there and act as if we are not alive until the moment passes. You see, the moment is always now, and your moment is right now. So we can't allow fear to overcome anything that we want to do in this world, because we'll never accomplish it. It's important for us to understand what that fear is and just simply look at it as a mindset. And it's a mindset that is inverted. It is a mindset that is perverse, because it is taking something that is real and making it something that is really scary, something that is not something that you want to do. And we need to work to overcome that. So when we allow fear to take over our minds, it really can control everything that we do. What I've learned in getting over fear is that the best way to overcome any fear is to simply do it. The thing that you are afraid of most, the thing that gives you most anxiety, the thing that may have you stressing, go head on and do that and accomplish the goal. You see, in doing that, you don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be great. All you got to do is do it. Because once you do it, you realize that the fear and anxiety and thought of what you were creating around what you didn't know is subsided now by the real life experience and examples of what you do know through the experience of doing whatever it was that you were afraid to do anyway. As a child, I remember being afraid of the dark, which is something that a lot of people can relate to. And I literally remember standing at the edge of the door of my room, turning off the lights, running as fast as I could, jump in the bed, cover my head, and that's how I would go to sleep. Say my prayers and hope the boogeyman doesn't get me, thank you God. Wake up the next day feeling good, only to have to go back to bed later that night and do the same routine again. Well, in that thought of the dark, what was I afraid of? Well, I was afraid of what I didn't know. I was afraid of what I couldn't see, what I couldn't experience. Fear of the unknown. And out of that, I created delusions of grandeur, a boogie monster, a troll under my bed, a sorcerer, a wizard, a goblin, a gooble, a whatever you want to call it, that was now coming to get me in my sleep. Well, in times of intense fear, the only thing that could overcome that is simply for me to get out of the bed, run over to the doorway of my room, and turn back on the light. And as soon as I was able to turn back on the light, I was able to realize that there was nothing in my room, that all of these things that I created in my head, that these delusions of grandeur were no more, because I was able to put tangible reality around my situation and what was taking place. You see, if we live life afraid to do anything, we will absolutely do nothing, because fear can be everywhere we allow our minds to create it. An example, two people can be in the exact same room and feel a different temperature. They can be different handed, right or left, and they can have different feelings on what makes them scared and afraid. For someone, it could be a fear of water, and the person right next to them doesn't even have that same fear, and in fact knows how to swim. Well, why is it that two people could have two different fears? Because fear lives in the mind and is created by the thoughts and experiences that we may have had around situations before. So what I ask of you today is, don't worry about any anxiety or fear or thoughts of being scared, because truly the way that we overcome them is by going forward and being confident in the things that we can do. Fear only exists and gets created out of the negative thoughts and images that we create out of a scenario. And if we're thinking about the worst case, then the worst case will occur. But today I ask, simply focus on the optimal, the best case scenario, the outcome that we want, and watch and see, doesn't that come to us more as well. Remember, my friends, this is the positive place where we come to learn, discuss, and think about all things positive. My goal this week is just to help you overcome a little bit of fear. There's that one thing you want to do. There's that thing that you know you should do. And there's that thing you have to do. I'm just simply telling you today, your time is now. Go forward. Look at the best case scenario. Learn as much as you possibly can about it. Look it head on. Simply get in there and do it. And watch and see. Don't your fear, your levels of anxiety, being scared, being afraid, all of that simply subside. Because once you overcome a fear, you will realize that there is nothing but you, and you should never be afraid. After all, it's possible.
I can do anything.